I like it said.
They're chirping it.
All right, you guys.
We've got him back.
So you guys have got quite a bit of stamina for this full day, and although I do have some short PowerPoint here, I'd like this to be more interactive because this was a topic that Justine suggested we should have. And so I'm going to put up some slides and ask you guys for your opinion, and I'd like to really tap into your extensive experience and see if we can come up collectively with some ideas that might be beneficial. One thing that Raul and I were talking a little bit earlier about, I've got prime performance and prime ski racing, and there's also prime coaching. And I think one of the hardest things about being a ski coach is that there's so much you need to know. And just today, you're having all this information thrown at you. And how do you assimilate it all? Because there's not enough time in the day to do everything that's talked about between myself and Andrew and so on. And what I would suggest is, at least in terms of the things that I've been talking about, is, in my first talk I probably offered, I don't know, a couple of dozen things that you could do. And you can't just go out and say, okay, I'm going to do all these things. So what I would suggest are a couple of things. First, break up all your responsibilities. So maybe this physical conditioning, training, on-hill training, and racing. And then from all of these things I've talked about, take two things and insert them into the different areas. And just keep focusing on those two areas until they're pretty much in your system. It's like you're developing skills just the way you're trying to get your athletes to develop skills. And at first you have to really pay attention, really be conscious, really focus. But then after a while, all of a sudden, you realize you're doing something without bringing it up, without having to think about it. So instead of trying to do a lot of stuff, pick two things that you think is most important for your program or for your training group, and then work on it, be conscious of it, remind yourself of it, build it in until it becomes automatic, and then move on to something else that interests you. So, any comments about that? No? Okay. So let's talk about prime training. Here's my definition of prime training. Maintaining consistently high training quality, resulting in optimal preparation for competitive success. Pretty obvious, I suppose, but some key things here. First of all, like prime ski racing, consistency, high quality, optimal preparation, and of course, competitive success. So that's my goal. So what's the fundamental purpose of training?
Get better.
To get better, okay. Can you be more specific?
Improve.
To improve, okay. Okay.
Acquire skills.
Acquire skills. Okay, now we're getting a little more specific. Here's my view. To instill effective skills and habits. Technical, tactical, physical, mental skills and habits. And the idea is that, the way I put it, I was just in Vail earlier in the week working with a top young US skier, and I said this, that my job is to get you to think a lot now. And I said, why would I want to do that? And he said, so I don't have to think when I'm in the starting gate. You want to make it with your athletes, and this comes with the better they are and the more they ski race, the easier it is, where they get in the gate and they don't have to do anything else. They just can allow their body to do what it knows how to do, because they've come to trust that they're so well trained that if they allow their body to do what it knows how to do, it's going to do what it is trained to do. And you certainly see this at the world-class level, where, especially I think of a Bodie and a Julie Mancuso are great examples who they don't want to think in the start. They're pretty much blank slate in there. And I've talked to them about this, and they just know that their body knows what it has to do, and that's the place you want to get to. And obviously, you don't have to be a World Cup ski racer to be able to do that. Just at whatever level they're at, they trust that their body knows how to do what they're capable of doing. So thinking about that idea of instilling effective skills and habits, and it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that every time they practice an ineffective skill and habit, they make it harder to instill an effective skill and habit. And another thing to keep in mind about these things is that I encourage you, don't keep this stuff to yourself. Share some really key points with your athletes, like the threat versus challenge. For me, is just something that every athlete should know and think about. The issue of adversity, another one. How you respond to adversity dictates how you perform. So pick some key ones and sit down. Because another interesting thing that I find with ski racers and all athletes is that part of becoming a great ski racer is becoming educated about what it takes to become a great ski racer. There's no book on it. It's up to you guys and gals to communicate to them, well, you actually do have to work really hard. You actually do have to really do boring drills. And because they see the great ski racers, the Michaelas and the Bennys and the Marcels and so on, and they think, well, they're just so great. But they don't notice like all the hard work and all the boring things and all the painful things they did to get there. And so if you can show them what it takes, then if they really have that motivation, then they're gonna put in that effort. So Taylor's 5 laws of prime training. Then we'll get into more interactive stuff. I just want to bring these up. 1, races aren't won on the day of the race. Races are not won on the day of the race. They're won on the days, weeks, and months leading up to the race. Now, yes, shit happens, pardon my language, in ski racing, but it goes back to that idea I mentioned in my previous talk that it's all about preparation. If you can get your athletes in the starting gate to be able to say, I'm as prepared as I can be, they're going to be successful. So here's an interesting question. Should you train like you race, or should you race like you train? Does anybody want to respond to that question? And you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. So. Yeah? Both. Okay, true. Okay.
3 options.
Yeah. And ultimately, I sort of agree with that, but which comes first? Train like you race. Anybody want to disagree with that? It's interesting you should say that, because most athletes and coaches, when I ask them, they say you should race like you train. Why? Who said that? JP, why is it impossible?
Because the race matters. In training, you said it earlier. It doesn't matter, there's another run. I go up the lift, I do it again.
Exactly right. But why do so many coaches and athletes? I mean, it is 95% will say you should race like you train. Because they're being unreal, they're being idealistic, I suppose. Because in an ideal world, yes, it'd be great if you could race like you train. Because if you train, when you train, you're relaxed, you're having a good time, there's no pressure. So it'd be great to translate that into racing. But you know what? You can't. Because, as JP says, results matter. It's different. So I suggest that your kids need to train like they race. Now, the way I put it is this. I see so many racers because they see that they think, well, training's not really that important. They train at about 70% focus and intensity. So if they train at 70% focus and intensity, what do they become good at? Skiing at 70% focus and intensity. So when they get to the race, 2 possible outcomes. Either they race at 70% focus and intensity, which isn't going to work very well, or they try to get to 100% and they explode. Because their mind and their bodies are not prepared to ski at that level of focus and intensity. Now, can a racer realistically train at 100% focus and intensity? No. But can they train at 90% to 95%? I think so. And that leap of 5 to 10% is totally doable. But also, when I talk about training at 100% focus and intensity, I don't mean every run is race run all out. I mean that whatever they're working on, they're putting 100% focus and intensity into their training. So if they're working on little, 1 mile an hour slipping drills, they are totally there, focus and intensity. And also, if they're also doing like speed as fast as they can, they're doing that as well. It means that what I mean by this idea is that by training like you race, is that whatever they're doing, they put all the focus and intensity into whatever they're working on. Because that is a skill in and of itself. They're training their bodies and their minds into putting everything they have into whatever they're working on. So, getting back to Martin's point, so if you train like you race, then you can race like you train. Because your body is used to being at that level of focus and intensity. So you guys were good on that one. Law 2, training is the foundation of all skills and habits. Again, kids don't always seem to get this idea that training matters. It matters more than anything else. And I encourage you to talk to them about this idea because I don't think they always think about it. It's about training effective skills and habits. And this ties in very much with consistency for me. Consistent racing, which is part of my definition of prime ski racing, comes from consistent everything else. Consistent training, consistent preparation, consistent equipment, consistent technique, consistent sleep, consistent diet, consistent school, consistent relationships, consistent everything. Now, admittedly, I'm sure there are some racers who have been incredibly successful who are pretty inconsistent. But I would say as a general rule, consistency begets consistency begets consistency, which ultimately results in consistent ski racing. Number 3, racers must bring 4 things to training to be successful. I want you to think of it for a minute. What are some of the things that they need to bring other than skis and boots? What are some things that they need to bring to have a quality training day?
Confidence.
Confidence, good. Yeah, that's what's that?
Focus.
Goal.
A goal. Okay, you know that I've got goals. One of them. I mean, and by the way, these are my 4. That doesn't mean that there aren't others that also work. Goal is one of them.
Focus.
Focus. That's good.
Planner?
Yeah, that's sort of the part of the goal, and a little bit. Yeah, I'll just put them up here. Goal, purpose, focus, and intensity. And I want to just distinguish between goal and purpose. The goal for me is what area you want to improve today. And so that's sort of the general. The purpose is what specifically they're going to do to achieve the goal. So my goal is to improve my line. So the purpose is I'm going to put some dye on the rise line and have you focus on not starting your turn until you cross it, or whatever it might be. So goal is the big picture. Purpose is what they're going to do. Focus, in order to do the purpose, you need to focus on the purpose. And so every time they get in the gate, having that specific focus of what they're going to do that run. And then 4th is intensity, because their bodies need to be at a place where they can execute the focus, purpose, and goal completely. Number 4, focus and intensity, point A to point B. As you've probably seen for me, focus and intensity is fundamental for me in terms of training. When I talk about point A to point B, I've got two things in mind. What I see very often with racers is in training, they'll work their way into the course. They'll sort of ease out of the gate and take a couple of gates just to settle in. Then they start going. Or they get close to the finish line and they ease up the last gate or 2. Now, back when I was racing, the clock started at the starting gate and finished at the finish line. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Yes, of course it is. And yet, if they're in that habit of easing in and easing up, what skill and habit are they ingraining? That particular habit. And that's where you see the racers who will hook a tip 3 gates from the finish. They're the racers who are at the first interval are a half a second out already. So my first point A to point B is start to finish. You want them going, have the focus intensity right out of the start until they cross the finish line. And that's why I'm a big believer in having starting gates and having finish lines in training, because you're trying to simulate that environment. But the second one is first run to last run. What tends to happen to focus and intensity the last couple of runs of a training day? Goes down, they get tired. Now, it's been my experience that if a racer can finish strong, if they can do what you want them to do, the last 2 runs of training, man, they've got it. They've got it, because when the muscle becomes fatigued, it becomes resistant to adaptation to change. Andrew can talk about this much better than I. And so if you can get your athletes to do what you want them to do those last couple of runs, man, they've just put major money in the bank. They've ingrained it even more deeply.
Does that mean you should hold pin and say that's better enough?
Not necessarily. It depends. If they're really deteriorating, but I think if they still feel like they've got something there, they've got something, let them take another run or 2. Because, but then it's really important. Because remember, their body's tired. So if they get to the start of let's say the last run or 2 of training, and they're tired, and they stay at that level of intensity, because when they're tired, what happens to intensity? Goes down. What happens to focus? It gets lost. So that's the time they have to put extra effort into revving themselves up, psyching themselves up, getting that intensity up, and making sure that they have that focus. Because the fact is, and this comes from my endurance sport training, is that anytime you think there's nothing left, there's always something left. So anytime you feel like the gas is empty, a kid at the end of a training day, they feel like they have nothing left, there's always something left. And I heard this great piece of anthropological research that we are actually, through evolution, wired to keep something in the tank. And the idea is this, that the tribesmen on the Serengeti, they would go 10, 15 miles hunting game, and they had to, through evolution, make sure that they always had something left in the tank. Because what did they need to do once they killed the game?
Get back home.
They need to get home. And the ones who didn't evolutionarily keep that reserve, they would die. So that gene pool didn't get passed on. Also, there was a great study done indoors with cyclists where they found that, and I'll see if I can do this, make sense of this. They found that they had them do like a 10K at anaerobic as fast as they could, and then they had them replicate it, and they didn't go as fast as expected. But when they had a screen where they thought they were this one cyclist image and this other one was somebody else, they were able to maintain and go as fast or faster. So even though they thought they were asked to predict whether they could go faster, and they said no way, because their bodies just didn't have it. But given sufficient incentive, they were able to go tap into this pool of energy that they didn't think they had to maintain their pace and perform as well as when they were, quote, rested. So interesting little side note there. So my bottom line is that as the training day goes on and they become more fatigued, that it's really important that they make an extra effort to get their intensity up and really make sure they nail that focus for those last couple of runs. And of course, fueling energy drinks and bars and so on are really important as well. Last one, prime preparation is devoted to skiing their best in the most important races of their lives. That's what everything we do is about, and I guess I already touched on this in the previous talk, but anyone can ski well in unimportant races under ideal conditions against an easy field. Anybody can do that. The ultimate goal of prime training is to ski their best when it really counts. And so again, that's a great thing to share with the athlete. That's what we're doing all this work for. And that ties in, I guess, a little bit with the sort of the long-term outcome goal. So now let's start getting a little more interactive here. I do a lot of work in the corporate world, helping senior management, CEOs maximize individual and team performance. And there's a lot of effort, a lot of discussion about how to create a really healthy team culture, a really healthy corporate culture. And I wrote a piece in skiracing.com this year about translating some of those ideas to ski racing, and thinking about like what kind of team culture do you want to have? And this team culture can be your overall program or just your training group. And so I would ask you guys, what are some components of a team culture, your team culture, that you want to have? And just before I open that up, I will say that it's important to be very deliberate about the culture you want to have. Think about what kind of messages do we want to send our kids? What kind of culture do we want to have that will help everybody achieve their goals? And be very deliberate about it in terms of having discussions and asking them as well. So what are the kind of things, what kind of culture do you want to have in your programs?
Positive attitude.
Okay, positive attitude, I've got that on my list. What else?
Hardworking.
Hardworking, I've got that one on my list, good.
Supportive.
So, wow, 3 for 3, that's good. Yeah, and again, mine are not the end-all be-all, they're just the ones I came up with. So being supportive is good. Winning, interesting. I probably wouldn't include that, but that doesn't say that's for me.
Progressive.
Progressive, what does that mean?
It evolves and develops as you work through it.
Okay, good. So we have this culture where it's about improvement and progression and moving toward our goals. Good, what else?
Value effort.
Value effort, okay, that ties in with hard work, yeah. Yeah.
Trust.
What's that?
Trust
Trust, very good. Trusting whom?
each other.
Each other? And you? Yeah.
Respect for your competitor, for you.
Respect for your competitor, you could call it being a good sport. Good. I hadn't thought of that. Any others?
Efficient.
Efficient? Good. So we have 3 hours. Let's get the most out of our training that we can. Good.
Fun.
Fun, thank you. That's a big one. That's one that people often forget. But yes, fun is a huge one. Anything else?
Commitment.
Commitment, good. That could tie in with hard work, but that's important. I think that's a big part of it. That's one of the foundations. So let's take a look at the ones I have. Purposeful and focused. That every time the kids go out on the hill, they're there to improve, to head toward their goals. And it's interesting because when I work with programs, I'll be heading out on the hill and I'll just randomly pick out a couple of athletes and say, what's your goal and your purpose today? And if they don't know, then I don't let them train. Because what happens if you have an athlete who they've got no goal and purpose? What's going to happen that day?
It's going to be wasted.
It's It's wasted. They're gonna, not, it's going to be worse than wasted because they're getting better at getting worse because they're ingraining old stuff. So you shouldn't allow your athletes out on the hill unless they have a very specific goal and purpose. Hard work, we talked about that. That, okay guys, we want to have fun out here, but we're here to do something. We're here to work. We're here to get I guess I don't like to talk about jobs that much, but it is sort of part of our vocabulary. But we're here to accomplish some stuff. We're here to get some stuff done. And so that's the main purpose. Quality. This is something to emphasize as well. So I talked a little bit about this just now and also in the previous one, is that we want to have really great quality training. So what does that involve? Positive attitude. Who mentioned that? Ro, was that you? You did. Okay. Like I talked about this with the confidence stuff. You hang out you hang out in a culture that's downer, man, it just sucks the life out of you. But kids can get down if things aren't going well. So you need to train them like that. This is what we're going to have here. Now, and when I talk about positive attitude, I don't mean, let's say it's a miserable day. This is not positive talk. I'm having a great time out here. This is so fun. I love this. That's blowing smoke up their wazoo. But what are some things that you or the athletes can say that are positive, that will at least make it less unpleasant?
We'll be done soon.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Martin. Yeah. No. Okay, but we'll be done. So, okay, you know, it will end. Because that's the amazing thing about training, about uncomfortable training. And in my endurance sport talks, at the top of my pyramid is pain. And I always talk about how pain is, the great thing about it is it will end. And so that's something to look forward to, okay? So for the next couple hours, it's going to be really cold and pretty miserable, but you know, it'll end. And you know how I'm going to feel after we've just gone through that and endured that? I'm going to feel tough as hell. And that's part of psychology as well. What else?
Maybe you could explain to them how being out there, you know, not because of the adverse conditions, you know, a lot of people may not be doing this.
Right.
Whereas we are here, you're getting a step ahead of your competition.
Absolutely. So it goes to that adversity thing, how you're approaching adversity. Like, oh, this is terrible, I don't want to be at adversity. You know what? I'll bet our competitors, they're inside because it's cold. And when I was at Berkmont Academy, I had a coach. He was a real hard ass, Chris Jones. And I hated him for a while because he used to pick on me. And he once told me after the fact that about half the training we did at Berk was unnecessary physically. But he wanted us that when we went to the race, that we thought we were the most physically fit, toughest athletes out there. And so there's a huge psychology in the suffering of training, including physical training. So that's a great comment. So basically, these things, okay, we're tough, we're enduring, you know, other people are inside. This isn't fun, but this is making us better. We're on a mission. All those things are not only positive, but they're also realistic. Support, that's a great one. As you well know, it's hard to do it alone. It's even harder to do it when everybody's against each other. Have you guys ever had a training group where everybody was in conflict with each other? Yeah. And let's be realistic. There are teams in the past that thrive with conflict. I always think of the Yankees in the U.S., the Oakland Raiders, the Dallas Cowboys. But realistically, it's much more fun and enjoyable to be in a supportive environment. So really talking about that, when everybody gets behind everybody else, everybody's lifted.
That sort of goes with positive.
Right, it does go with being positive, yeah. But there are going to be conflicts. So another really worthwhile thing to do is talk about, so guys, what do we do when we have a conflict? When you get in a fight over something, or when somebody's crabby, or somebody's picking on somebody else, how do we deal with it? And I mean, this has huge implications not only in terms of the functioning of the team, but also in terms of how kids deal with life outside of their sport. So because one thing I forgot to mention was that ultimately all the things we're talking about, they're not ski racing skills, they're not sports psychology skills, they're not even psychology skills, they're life skills. And really that's what you're ultimately instilling in the kids you work with. There we go, fun. Now, keep in mind, it's not always fun. And you want to point out to the kids, but what is fun? Improving, skiing their best, being together as a team, and yes, ultimately getting the results they want. So these are the things that I think are worthwhile talking about, and especially when creating a culture. It's not something you just hand out and go, guys, this is our culture. It's kind of thing you sit down at the season and say, beginning of the season and say, okay, like, what kind of culture do you want to have? And you create a discussion, I'm sure they'll come up with a lot of stuff. And then put it out there, put it on the door in your clubhouse, or in the van, or wherever they can see it. It's a constant reminder. Oh yeah, because kids especially, and we as human beings, we all forget stuff until it's deeply ingrained. So the more that it can be out in front of them, the more they can be reminded, oh yeah, I got to be supportive. I've got to have a purpose, and so on. Training attitude. What kind of attitude do you want your athletes to have when they go out on the hill? I don't know if this is a little too amorphous. I've got some specific ones. How do you want your athletes to think? How do you want them to approach training?
They feel good about being there.
They feel good about being there. Good. They want to be there.
There's a purpose.
They've got a purpose. Yeah. Maybe.
With confidence.
What's that? What's that?
Confidence.
Having confidence. Yeah. Good. This might be a little bit too amorphous to just throw out there, so I'll throw some out. First of all, the discussion about challenge versus threat. And as I said before, this is something that's really worthwhile to talk to your athletes about. Seek out discomfort. Kids, especially, but human beings in general, don't like to get uncomfortable. And it goes back to our evolution. Discomfort meant our lives might be on the line. But what's interesting is that what worked evolutionarily to survive prevents us from thriving. Because to thrive, your kids have to get out of their comfort zone. So I hear this so often. A coach will be working with a kid on something technically, and the kid says it feels terrible. Well, I tell them that's good. You want to feel terrible. Because what does terrible mean? It means they're doing something different, exactly. They're simply doing something different. Anything that they try that's new, technically, physically, tactically, mentally, is not going to feel good. And young racers don't like to feel not good. But if you can show them that the point of all this is to feel uncomfortable, because as long as kids stay in their comfort zone, they're not improving, they're not growing, they're not progressing, they're not going to be successful. So I think it's a great thing to have a discussion about, guys. Anytime it's good to feel bad. That's one of my mottos. It's good to feel bad. If you're not feeling bad, then you're not improving.
Step out of the box.
Stepping out of the box, doing something different. Whoops, experimentation. This ties in with discomfort. Athletes don't like to experiment, because young athletes very often, because it's uncomfortable. Because it often doesn't work at first. And young racers would rather sort of keep doing what they're doing because it sort of works okay and it feels okay. But when I work with athletes on snow, I'm constantly having them experiment with different things, because ultimately the only way athletes know if something works is them to try it. And this applies technically and tactically as much as it does mentally. So as I indicated, I'll have them try different levels of intensity. I'll have them try different ways to focus. I'll have them try different pre-start routines. I'll have them try different ways of doing imagery. And so only by experiencing things, by experimenting, can they then come to the conclusion like, oh, this doesn't work, I'm not going to do that anymore. Oh my gosh, this worked. Because you have this experience as well as I do, is that if you can have an athlete try something and they get better, you've got it. Because they want to get better. So they're going to keep doing that thing. And then if you try something and it doesn't work, and you try it a couple times, it doesn't work, well, that's one less thing they know not to do. So getting in them that idea of experimentation, wanting to do things differently with the purpose of getting uncomfortable and challenging themselves. Failure is essential. Kids don't like to fail. In fact, I can't speak for Canada, but in the US, fear of failure is epidemic. And I'm going to talk to the parents tomorrow about this. And yet, think about the most successful people in every walk of life. They failed frequently and monumentally on the way to success. So, I always ask a kid, how often do you ski out of the course? Oh, I rarely ski out of the course. What does it tell you if a kid never skis out of the course?
Not risky, not.
Exactly. They're not risking, they're not pushing themselves. And what makes the great racers great is their ability to go to that line. I don't mean this kind of line. I mean that line, that metaphorical line of, when I cross the line, I blow out. And what the great ones do is, well, how do you know where that line is? How do racers know where that line is? There's only one way to find out. You got to cross it. Exactly. And then you go, okay, that didn't work out. That's too fast. But the great ones, they know where that line is, and they stay just inside of it all the time. There's some racers, I always think of Chad Fleischer a couple of generations back. Very fine downhiller. He, on any given day, he could be top 10, top 5 in a World Cup. Did you race against him? And yet, he was known for his monumental crashes. And my view of that is, and I talked about this a while ago, was that he just couldn't figure out where that line was. or he thought the line was farther out than was physically possible, because we all have our physical limits. So ultimately, you want your kids to fail. And yet, what are the messages that kids get in our culture about failure?
It's bad.
It's bad, because if they fail, what does that make them? A loser, exactly. So you need to redefine what that means. I want you skiing out. I want you making mistakes. I want you screwing up. Because if you don't want to screw up, if you want to stay in the course, well, that's easy. Just ski very slowly. But that's not what ski racing is about. Train for adversity. Again, I guess I'm being redundant here. Constantly talk to them about that idea of what adversity means. It's not something like this. It's something, yes. Because that's how you raise tough kids. The volume challenge. Here's a question for you. When do you know when enough is enough? Because the reality is, in ski racing, you need a certain amount of volume. How do you know where that balance is? And that's the volume challenge. How to give them enough, but not too much to burn out, or where they're not getting quality. What do you do?
Have an option to change it up.
Change it up, so variety. Good. What else?
Look at it.
What's that?
You look at your athletes, how they're performing, and you judge by experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Okay.
difficult. That's a difficult question.
Okay, it is a difficult question. And my basic rule of thumb is anytime they think they've had enough, unless there are really significant consequences or concerns, have them take at least one more. Because that's part of experimentation, it's part of getting out of their comfort zone, and it's part of ingraining those skills when they're tired. And it's also about teaching them to really take control of their focus and intensity.
And the course is the roughest.
Especially when the course is the roughest, exactly.
One more.
Yeah, one more. And because they might struggle, they might get it, but kids don't know what they're capable of. And going back to that old comfort thing, they will only go as far until they get to the point where it's uncomfortable. Then they'll look around their environment, mostly to you, and to see if they've gone far enough. This is something with parents as well. And if you say, well, that's far enough, that's where they're going to stay. But if you say, you know what, I'll bet you can do a little more. I bet you can take another run. Why don't you take a shot? And they try it, and they go, wow, you're right. And they just moved a little farther. They just extended their comfort zone a little bit. And so pushing them that little bit extra, you need to use your experience and your understanding of the athletes about, sometimes they are just tired, and they need to stop. And I always marvel, you guys probably know Eric Seiler, and like you go to his camps at Hood, and the kids just hammer. Oh, Martin, you're a pro at that, right?
No, I was laughing. So.
Okay, I mean, all morning just run after run after run. I guess that's growing up on a 400-foot hill, coaching on a 400-foot hill at Buck Hill. But it was always remarkable to me. It was just like, oh, volume. And at one level, that's great because kids need volume. But I always wondered, like, what kind of quality there is. I don't know. But it's up to you to figure out what that balance is. But always thinking about, maybe one more or two more. And they find out what they're capable of. And that's huge benefits in skill development as well as confidence. No such thing as free skiing. I hate the word free skiing. Because free skiing is not free.
That's right.
You'll either profit from it or it'll cost you. It's kind of cute, isn't it?
Yeah. It is good. It's true.
It's not free skiing. A lot of kids go out free skiing and they just sort of goof around or do whatever. But free skiing, as you guys know better than I, is the foundation of all technical development. You don't start working on technique in a course. You first do it free skiing. And yet, for so many kids, it's just free skiing. Now, there is a place, of course, for just going out and having a good time. But if you're training, then free skiing is not free. I call it gateless training. And I have a quote from a long time ago from Mark Girardelli about that he'd go out and imagine himself running a course while he's free skiing. So getting them to understand that free skiing is not free. Free skiing is fundamental to instilling effective skills and habits, especially technical ones. Because it's a simple environment where they can just focus on proper technique. Lastly, never give up. The most successful people in every walk of life, by definition, were the ones who kept at it. There are a lot of athletes out there, I'm sure you've seen over the years, who had tremendous ability, could have gone really far, but they didn't do one really important thing. They didn't keep going. They quit. And here's a basic assumption that I go under. As soon as an athlete gives up, what happens?
DNF.
Yeah, he loses. They lose. 100% of the time. Not most of the time, not occasionally. 100% of the time, when they give up, they lose. They have no chance of success. If they keep trying, they're going to be more successful. Might not take them to the World Cup, but it's so often the ones who simply hang in there the longest, keep trying, are the ones who make it. And at the very least, those are the kids who are going to make it as far as they possibly can. And that's the ultimate goal for all the work you do. Not every one of your kids is going to make the World Cup, but if you can have them become the best ski racer they can possibly be, that's a big victory for you guys, that's for sure. And for some that might be the local town league, for others it might be provincial, some might be national, some might be international, who knows. But if you can instill in them this idea that you never give up, you've given them not only for ski racing, but an invaluable life lesson. So, creating prime training. How can you create a situation that will enable them to get the most out of their training? First of all, let's set the stage. A couple of basic things that I encourage. First of all, sacred ground. One thing that I hate in training, working with young racers is they'll all be at the start, and they're all trying to be the next one in, and their skis are going around the start, and skis on top of each other, and they're all distracting each other and talking to each other and goofing around. I suggest making that start area sacred ground. I encourage maybe using chalk or colored water. Map out this little area where once a kid gets in it, they are on sacred ground. Nobody talks to them. Nobody distracts them. Nobody goofs around. Nobody puts their tips into them. Outside, they can do whatever they want. But once they're in that sacred ground, you leave them alone. Because this is what I see so often with young racers. They're in the start, and they're sort of goofing around, talking, gotta go, and they push out of the gate. Focus on intensity?
No.
Crap. Takes them 3 gates to realize, oh yeah, I'm in the course, let me work on something. Bad skills and habits. So the first one is sacred ground. Make this an area where this is your thing.
That works.
Thank you. Second is radio above the start. This is another thing that gets me with coaches. Many coaches, they'll put the radio right at the starting gate. So the kid will get in the gate and they'll go, hey coach, it's Johnny. What do you want me to do? And the coach gives them some feedback. How well can they assimilate that feedback? Not very well. What I say is take the pole with the radio, put it outside of sacred ground. So the second racer to go. Says, Coach, Johnny, what do you want me to do? Keep your hands up. So then they can do imagery, they can put in that keyword, whatever it is. They have time to assimilate. And then they get in the gate. Then again, forget it.
It's up to them.
Hopefully not.
It's more up to them when they get in that sacred ground.
Right.
The decision is theirs to do the focus.
Absolutely.
They're not listening because they've already done that.
Yeah.
Over here. Now it's time. Their space.
Right. So this is a big thing for me is put the radio before they get into the start. Then they can think about it and process it and figure out what they're going to do. They get in the gate, they have a better chance of focusing. And then racers stop talking. I love hanging out at the start with a bunch of kids. And just years ago, Diane Roth, after she won her gold medal, she was training with a bunch of other U.S. ski team girls, and they were younger group, and she was the wily veteran, and they're just chatting up, making a lot of noise. And I was actually at this camp, and she's in the gate, and she turned around and said, "I'm going to swear if you don't mind. Shut the fuck up!" To the other athlete, the other young racer, were like so shocked. But if you knew Diane, she was somebody who was just like total like this, laser beam focused, and did not like to be distracted. And so she was willing to say that. So getting the athletes to realize, okay, so what do I need to do to be most effective this run? What do I need to do to be most focused? Well, stop talking to the other racers.
Supportive. And
it's also supportive. It's also respectful. Okay, so what are a couple of mental skills that you can incorporate to have them improve the quality of their training? One, imagery. Again, I mentioned this morning. In the start area, have them close their eyes, see and feel themselves skiing the way they want. I don't believe in racers thinking about their skiing before a training run or a race run. Because thinking involves judgment and evaluation and critiquing and can turn into criticism and judgment and worry. And well, what I want them to do is focus on it. And where does thinking occur? Where here does thinking occur? Yeah, up here. Where does ski racing occur? Down here. Words, thoughts don't translate into the body that well. Imagery does. Because imagery is not just sort of stuff that goes on up here. A lot of you, I'm sure you're familiar with the research that when you do imagery, you're actually activating a lot of the muscle system as when you're actually doing it. And years ago, there was this study done on U.S. ski team downhillers at the Hahnenkamm, where they hooked downhillers up to EMGs to measure muscle activity, and had them imagine themselves running the Hahnenkamm. And their muscles activated just as if they were actually running it, not to quite the degree. So if there was a big hard right footer, the right quad and hamstring activated. If it was big air, both activated. So imagery for me is a way to block out distractions. It creates intensity. It narrows that focus. It sort of primes the muscles. So there's just a much better focus. Keywords, mentioned on the first part. If an athlete doesn't have a keyword, the chance of them maintaining that focus all the way down are pretty slim. Because again, there's all these things pulling away from you. So making sure that you radio, angles, pressure, knee, tip, big toe, whatever it is, giving them that keyword, it will improve the focus, will improve the quality. The training routine. There's so much talk about pre-race routines, which are essential. But it goes to that idea, train like you race. Well, again, what I see so often, racers are before there's a couple of races before they start, what are they doing? They're hanging on their poles, they're leaning on their poles, chatting it up. And that's it. And then they get in the gate, maybe they buckle the boots, get in the gate and go. 3 things that should go into routine, pre-racer training. Equipment, physical, mental. And the pre-training routine should be just like a pre-race routine, but just much shorter. So a pre-race routine might take 15 to 30 minutes. Pre-race routine can take 2 minutes. They buckle their boots, get their gear all lined up, they get themselves going physically, rev their body, get their intensity going, grab that focus, they do some imagery, see and feel themselves skiing the way they want this run, grab their keyword in the gate, and that's another thing I really emphasize. Every time they begin a run, a breath or 2, and then go. Simple routine, gets them more prepared. It also blocks out the other stuff, gets the other people stopping things. So, and again, it goes to that idea. If they're used to developing this pre-training routine, they do that over and over. What are they training themselves to do? To do a routine before every time they take a run. So when they get to the race, they do the same thing, expanded version, but they go through that routine, so they're prepared. So it's habit. Exactly. Because remember, what is the ultimate goal? What do they want to be able to say to themselves when they get in the starting gate of a training or race course? I'm prepared as I can be to ski my best. And the imagery, keyword, the routine will help them. So what can you guys do? Let's explore some of this. Be passionate and positive. How many of you guys are hard asses? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're tough. Okay, guys, I am. I'm a tough psychologist. Just like with my kids, I'm a tough parent. But tough doesn't mean being mean, or angry, or controlling. It means knowing what's best for your kids and doing what's best for them, and demanding things of them. Because one thing I've learned is that kids have an incredible radar for knowing that you care or you don't care. You can get your kids to do a lot of stuff. These are your kids or your children or the kids who you coach. You can get them to do a lot of things. You can be really tough on them. If they understand, if they sense that the reason you're doing it, is because you care about them. You can even yell at them. Not a big fan of yelling, but it sometimes can work. I mentioned this coach Chris Jones when I was at Burke. He used to ride my butt so hard. He used to pick on me so bad, I hated him. Then he went away to the U.S. ski team for a year and came back, and I had this epiphany that if he didn't care about me, he would ignore me. He saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And he pushed me till I finally saw those things. And so the year before, he'd be yelling at me halfway up these hill repeats, and I'd be hating him. The next year, when he came back, and he'd be doing the same thing, and I'd be thinking, Jonesy loves me, Jonesy loves me. Because I realized that why he was doing it, because he cared so deeply. So if you're passionate, if you're positive, if you're tough but caring, my gosh, the kids get a sense that, and that's part of the culture as well. You're creating a culture that's passionate, positive, and caring as well. Constantly remind athletes of culture and attitude. Remember, kids just don't remember stuff because they have a lot of other things going on. So if you can constantly remind them, okay, what's our culture? What kind of attitude do you want to bring out here? Then that's going to sink in after a while. It's repetition, over and over again. Okay, what kind of attitude do we want to have? What kind of culture do we want to have on the team? Over and over again, it's going to sink in until it becomes who they are and what they do. Constant reminders. Foster experimentation, discomfort, and failure. Talk about that, but that's something you want to convey to them constantly. Are you getting comfortable? Did you take the risk? Did you push him? One thing that's absolutely remarkable about Michaela and watching her train is that literally every single run, she gets down and has a brilliant run, beats a bunch of the boys. She says, Coach, how can I go faster? She's constantly looking to get better. And that means sometimes skiing out, that means sometimes making mistakes, although it seems like Michaela basically never loses balance or makes mistakes. But that's the kind of thing you want to foster. Help them overcome frustration. You need to educate your kids about frustration because they just know frustration is a terrible feeling and they don't know how to deal with it. And it causes them ultimately to go down what I call the negative emotional chain. First they feel frustration and they try to clear the path try to solve the problem and they can't. And then they get angry. Because they feel like so out of control. What do I do? What do I do? And they get angry and angry. So they keep trying. They keep banging their head against the wall. And then ultimately what happens at the end of this chain is they experience despair. And what happens when kids despair? They give up. Right. And then they have no chance of getting better. So if you can educate them about what it takes to deal with frustration. What is it? Well, it's when the path toward your goal is blocked. And like I talked about a little earlier with emotions, well, if I just try to keep doing what I'm doing, I'm just going to keep getting the same result. And so help them deal with that emotion. I think frustration is the single greatest obstacle to improvement because becoming better is frustrating, especially in this day and age, because our culture teaches kids that they want it now, they want it easily, without any effort, and they want it right away. Well, that's not the way the world works, except with microwaves. And McDonald's, and getting stuff online, instant messaging, and so on. But in the real world, in the world of ski racing, that's just not the way the world works. You need to show them that it takes time. In fact, this might not be on here, but I've got another 3 Ps that are fundamental to having the right attitude toward training. 3 Ps, the first is patience. Getting your kids to understand that they're not going to get it now. They're not going to get it today. But if they keep at it, they will get it. So patience, persistence. Keeping at it, keeping at it, keeping at it, keeping at it. And third is perseverance. It's a little different from persistence because it involves when you have setbacks, failures, obstacles, you keep climbing over them until you get it. So patience, persistence, perseverance. Praise them the right way. Kids need praise. But what is the single most common form of praise that you hear on the hill, at school, on the playground, on the soccer field, wherever?
You're so talented.
Well done.
Well, that's another one. What did you say?
Well done.
Well done. But here's an issue. Maybe this is it's when you say that in the U.S. It's good job.
Yeah.
Good job. But I gave some talks to ski coaches, the British Ski Coach Federation in England 2 falls ago, and I was telling the story, and I said, and they looked at me sort of bewildered, and I said, well, good job, and they go, we don't say that here, and you know what they say? Well done. So maybe it's your English connection, Commonwealth thing, but well done indeed. Well done indeed. You have to throw the indeed in there. Anyway, do you know what I think of good job or well done?
Or you're good.
It's worthless.
They didn't say anything.
It's worthless praise. It's lazy praise. Because what's the point of praise? To have an athlete repeat the behavior that they just engaged in. Good job doesn't tell them anything.
Right.
It doesn't tell them what exactly they did, and it's also a job, and you don't really want your kids for it to be a job yet. And so,
Good fun.
yeah, good fun. And so now, have your radar on. You will hear it all the time. You'll go, that's just the worst thing. So the kind of praise you should give is very specific. You really kept your hands up there. You really fought to the end. Think about what they did to have a good job and reward that. Because then they know that if they do that thing again, they'll be successful again. And that's what developing, instilling effective skills and habits are about.
What did you like about that?
What do you like about it, so they can start to coach themselves, and so they can say, well, I did that really well. So they can self-coach them as well. But the key, be really cognizant of your praise and be very specific. You're really focused, good intensity. You really kept those angles. Identify specifically what they did well and praise that. Not just this generic, easy, oh, good run. Use video the right way. Video is an incredibly powerful tool. It is one that everybody uses, but it also can be dangerous. How can it be dangerous?
Well, if you stop it, especially if you stop it on a bad position, that could be a recovery position, which is good. But if you focus on that bad position, it's negative.
Right. Most often, what do you point out when you're doing video with your kids? Mistakes.
Yeah.
So and I see kids, they'll get on Sprongo and they'll just keep repeating the same mistake over and over. And so what's the image that's being ingrained into their brain, in their body? The bad image. So also getting really granular, like slow-mo, frame by frame, body position. That stuff can be too cerebral, too much up here. And a couple of really good things to keep in mind, I think, with video is one, only show mistakes like 30% of the time. Have them watch either highlights of themselves or good things that they did, and reward good things. So you ski this section really well. Let's watch it 3 more times. And also,
Don't stop it.
yeah, don't get too granular. Don't get too techniquey. Some research found was that they had some athletes watch video, and then they actually turned the monitor upside down. They got more benefit from watching it upside down because they couldn't think about it. All they could do was just process the information. So don't do super slow motion too much. Don't get too analytical. Let them just take in the good images. Focus on seeing and feeling, not thinking. And this is something that I guess I touched on a little bit as well. Ski racing is not a thinking sport. We don't have time to think. Ski racing is about seeing it visually, but ultimately it's about feeling it. So what does it feel like to get these angles? And when I say feel it, well, it feels good. Well, I don't mean that. I mean literally, what does it feel like to create those angles? Well, I feel this pressure on the sole of my foot on the inside. I feel pressure on my big toe. I feel a pinching here. Now, what does it feel like when you don't do that? Well, I feel pressure on the heel or on the outside of the foot, or sort of a looseness here. Because we are physiological beings, and we also work on contrast. So if you can give them have them recognize that feeling of good and not good, that's much more powerful than thinking, okay, get the hip in and get the body angled here, doing a slopey or what have you. So try to stay away from thinking as much as possible, and just get them seeing it. Because the visual stuff, as we found with the imagery research, translates in the muscles, and of course feeling translates to the muscles, because muscles are about feeling. Feedback and keywords, we touched on that. When you give your kids instruction, break it down, give them one simple word that they can hang on to. They can't go down the hill thinking, I need to keep my hands up at this angle and hip there like this. They can think of pinch, or reach, or press, or whatever it is. It is really powerful. Lastly, lastly is the KISS principle. What's the KISS principle? Keep it simple. Actually, no. It's keep it simple, smart. Keep it simple, smart. I mean, it is traditionally keep it simple, stupid, but I think if you're smart, you keep it simple. Because ski racing, we tend to complicate things, kids especially. So as an example, they watch Ted Ligety. What are the 2 biggest marks that Ted Ligety has left on young ski racers that aren't good?
Drag not speed.
Thank you. They see Ted dragging his hand, they think, well, that's what makes him great. But it's not. That's a byproduct of what makes him great. And then from the World Championships, this thing, the full power drift before he even gets above the gate, it's a brilliant move, but it's not something you want to really emulate, right? But he won the World Championships. That must be a key thing. So really keeping things as simple as possible, have them focus on those basics, and then build from there. So, what's the outcome? And then we're wrapping things up here. Purposeful, focused, and intense training. That's what you want. Results in quality training. Results in effective skills and habits. Results in, again, victory, however it is defined. Okay. We're doing pretty darn well on time. It's been a long day for you guys. Before I totally wrap it up, any sort of again, because I don't want to have this going because you've had a long day. Any sort of questions? And then I'll hang out after if you have individual questions. Is there any questions or comments you might have?
Just about re-skiing.
Yes.
What we try to do at Fair Bit is call it cool down run. And what we try to do is get the kids to kind of empty their head. I think what you said is true. They don't actually brain themselves. But just trying to feel balance, trying to, and I don't think we're going to change the name. We're still going to call it pre-skiing, but you know, it's sort of a purpose. Yet you're trying to get an anti-purpose into it to get an effect. You know what I mean?
Right. There are a lot of different ways to think about purpose. One can be really intentional, like working on specific technical things, going out and skiing, steeping deep in the crud and the bumps, having fun. That's purpose. They're not focused on anything, but by skiing a bunch of junk, they're becoming better skiers. And so the idea is that whatever the purpose is, and it might be skiing mindlessly, it might be just feeling, it might be just going out and skiing hard stuff. Whatever it is, have them that a purpose because it's to make them better skiers. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I've had many kids that really don't really fight on feeling and seeing.
Yeah, I mean, there are some kids who are just really cerebral, and like I've worked with probably 2 or 3 kids over the years who couldn't imagine. They literally couldn't picture themselves. In that case, imagery is probably not right for them, and because you guys I'm sure have studied or have heard about learning styles, and my basic approach to that is that kids do have dominant learning styles, but the more different ways you can get information to them, I don't think just because they're visual, you should just give them visual information. Because if you also include feeling and verbal, etc., it's just more ways of getting information into their brain. So ultimately, you have to figure out what are these athletes' needs, what are their style, and then for you to then offer them your coaching in the most comprehensive way that you can do it. Other questions? No? Okay. Wrapping things up. I realize that I've covered a lot of ground today, and I realize again it's a long day. I want to thank you guys for digging in deep here and emulating what you try to do with your athletes. Again, tons of information here. I will send Bruce actually tonight summaries of my 2 talks that you can then take with you and study. If you go to skiracing.com, if you put in Dr. Jim Taylor, you get an archive of everything I've written the last couple of years. You can also go to my website and look under my blog under Ski Racing. You can see all that as well. I also have a book, Prime Ski Racing, which you can order online. More generally, if I can be of any assistance to you guys in your work, either informally or formally, feel free to reach out to me, drop me an email, ask me a question, invite me to work with your program, whatever it might be, the full range. Hopefully I've communicated the message that I love this sport, and I think it's an amazing sport, and I so respect that you guys are out there doing the work with them, because ultimately, it's great to have a great success, but when you send your kids off to college or to a career or whatever, and they go on and do great things, that's also massive success as well. So I will leave you with, thank you so much again. Thank you.
Gordy, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say thank you. On behalf of BC Alpine, I mean, we've had various sports psychologists that have worked with us, with coaches and with athletes before. I don't think we've ever had someone like yourself who connected it back to our sport so well, and directed it back to this audience here, the coaches who make a massive impact on our sport. So thanks, that was really, really great hands-on information. Appreciate it.
So that wraps up today, and we put you on because we knew you'd keep them enamored during the afternoon because we're so boring in the morning. That's why we went first. So, guys, Bohemian Cafe, 524 Bernard Avenue. They'll go to Bernard and go down that way. 6 to 7 drinks, which is a cash bar. Dinner at 7. We're buying you dinner.
6 to 7 drinks doesn't mean you can have 6 to 7 drinks. I mean, between 6 o'clock